Hello folks and welcome to our game again this Monday morning with myself, Shane Stapleton. As always, we have Michael Burney with us here to talk a little bit of rot and everything else in between. How are things with you? How was the weekend?
Good, Shane. Oh yeah, good. Great weekend, and was down in St. Brendan's Park yesterday. The Borough Camogie team did 2 in a row, managed by a regular viewer of the show, Andrew Sullivan. Actually did a great win. First time they've ever done 2 in a row, so my voice is a little bit croaky this morning. Not from celebrations or anything like that, just from roaring and balling during the game, to be honest with you. But yeah, great win and a great start to a big week in Borough, county final back in Borough on Sunday for the first time in 17 years. We've Mundy playing on the pitch beforehand. We've a tenor from Borough singing the national anthem. We've the Limerick City Pipe Band. We have everything you want. It's going to be some occasion. The only pity for it is that Borough aren't in it. But sure, listen, you can't have everything, unfortunately.
I remember seeing Mundy at the Students' Union in Maynooth back in 2000 and we'll say 3, something like that. And there was only about, like, obviously he's had plenty of big shows, but this one evening, for whatever reason, there weren't that many there. And there was just like a load of tables just shoved to the middle of the Students' Union room and people just sitting around it on chairs. There must have been only like 30 or 40 people there. It was class. It was class. Yeah. What song do you think of when you think of Mundy? I'd say our younger viewers are like, who?
Yeah, maybe. Gin and Tonic Sky I really like. July is obviously a deadly tune as well. And sure, Galway Girl is probably the most famous one.
Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico is a great. He's got some great tunes, to be honest with you. He's the perfect sort of fella for that gig where people are going to know 6-7 songs and really get into it. But yeah, the place should be absolutely rocking. Tickets are absolutely flying out the door as well. So like you're saying.
Sorry, you broke up there for me for a second. What'd you say?
No, it's going to be an unbelievable occasion and tickets are absolutely flying out the gap. So yeah, cracking game. Repeat last year's final, Shinrone and Kilcormac. So and there won't be much between them, and Kilcormac are out for a bit of redemption. So yeah, going to be a belt.
And one of them will be parading the cup up from St. Brendan's Park up through Bird. That'll be tough to take.
Yeah, it probably will. Well, Kilcormac could be going through the town to go back if it's them. Shinrone will be going the other way. They probably will take a lap around the town. Which listen, you can do what when you're champions. You can kind of do what you want, but it probably is something that's stored in the locker for other teams if that happens. If they're driving through your own parish or your own village or your own town with the trophy, it's not something you forget anyway.
Yeah, well, look, we're going to do a club power rankings today. It's putting our neck on the block like we always do. People can say, "Oh, you were wrong" and whatever. At least we put our neck on the block and try and make a prediction and don't just say, look, they're all really good teams. That's a tight one there now. And, you know, they both sides have great players. No, we try and call it. And we don't care if we're wrong. Well, we obviously do care. We want to be right. But at least we're saying it's not just going to be boring where lads are just hedging their bets constantly. So I'm not looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a disaster, in fact. But look, we'll do it. You were also mad to talk about the Rugby World Cup.
No, I tell you what. No, it's just... like, it's amazing to think like that there's something like 60,000 Irish people gone over to France. The buy-in seems to be so much bigger this time around than any other World Cup and any other tournament or Six Nations or anything that they've ever played in. The buy-in is absolutely massive. Just, I don't know. I know they're playing next Saturday against the All Blacks, who, you know, are obviously the kings of the tournament, basically. But it just seems like there's a different mentality or something. And like you know, if they get over Saturday, they probably get to a final. If they get to a final, potentially could be a repeat against the Springboks again. I don't know. I just kind of feel, you know, when you're around a team that you've been involved in with Coola and even I've been with Burr, you can just sense something. You see what's kind of brewing. I don't know. The mentality just looks totally different. And I know they've got a few injuries, even though I don't think they're too bad coming into the weekend now from reports this morning. But it just looks like a lot of things have fallen into place. And listen, some people might be giving out about rugby talk for the next 3 weeks or whatever, but it would be an unbelievable achievement if they were able to get that far, if they were able to win it or whatever. But they have to get over a hurdle on Saturday that they've never gotten over before, and that's going to be fascinating. And if they do get over that, like, will that just be a big weight off their shoulders then as well going into the last 2 games? And it was really interesting, I thought, to hear Peter O'Malley talking the other night, and it was great to hear it because it's a professional sports setup, and that emotion comes into it. Emotion in the sense of, you said this about us and we're going to prove you wrong. Because it happens in GA every weekend. And you can talk about your psychology and all this and sticking to the process or whatever. But there has to be that little bit. There has to be that little bit of fire. There has to be that little bit of hate, that little bit of bitterness. And it's good to hear that people in professional sport not shying away from that, saying that you need that little chip on your shoulder, regardless of what you're playing in, whether it's a Junior B hurling match or a World Cup rugby match. You need that chip on your shoulder.
Scotland were useless though, weren't they? Now, Ireland were brilliant. Like the thing about Ireland that impresses me is just the lack of mistakes. They just seem to do everything right all the time. And because it's at such high intensity and big hits and all that, I have to say, I think it's, like very, very impressive. But if I was to ask you, like, so you're obviously aware that Ireland have never won a quarterfinal, 0 from 7. New Zealand have been in 9. How many have they won?
Oh, I'd find it hard to think that they've lost any, to be honest with you, with the way the seasons would normally work. Lost one. You're going back a while, are you?
I think that was, my guess would be that was France 2007, was it?
Okay.
I think, was that the year that South Africa?
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah. A result in the group stages got them a horrible draw in the quarterfinal, I think. I could be right in saying. And they ended up getting knocked out early. And then they obviously won it in 11 and 15. Yeah, no, just obviously there's club action going on at the minute. But the World Cup is kind of looming over everything at the minute. And listen, if Richard Hogan just is there as well, a bit of an Italian 90 feel about it for me. Manager from north of England getting the team to achieve their best. I was only 4 for Italian 90. I remember 94 a bit better, but it's just there's a feeling that everything is kind of falling into place. And as a manager, as a player, as a supporter, when you can feel that, it's pretty exciting because I've been around Offaly, supporting Offaly back in the day when you can just feel it and you just think they're going to win. And with Borough as well, when you're going out to play games, you just have your chest out and you think you're going to win, and it is a great feeling.
Yeah, there's no worries about winning these days, Fee.
We'll be back. Clonlara in a county final to beat us after extra time by a score, so we're not a million miles away.
Yeah. Okay, delighted to say we've got Joe Fortune coming on the line there now. Joe, how are you doing?
Good, lads. Yeah, not too bad. And yourselves?
Not too bad, yeah. So obviously, for anyone who's hiding under a rock, Joe is the manager of Westmeath, and it's only a few years ago. We're going to touch on Dublin hurling at some stage as well. That, of course, managed Ballyboden to a county title. Was that 2019? Was it, Joe?
2018.
2018. Okay. Yeah. So I suppose just the first thing we want to touch on and ask you before we kind of get lost in some other conversation is Loch Lane getting so close in the Westmeath county final over the weekend. They were winning in injury time, and Raharney pulled it out of the bag with Killian Doyle scoring a goal. That's their 15th title. What sort of final was it?
Well, lads, I did everything. You know, like you go up, like I went up yesterday. I was up Saturday as well. I suppose there was a couple of games due to be on Saturday. The Senior B final, Plunkett's won that at the weekend, and then unfortunately the Castletown game was called off. There was a horrific, really bad, sad occasion for the Castletown lads during the week last week, where they lost a young guy called Pádraig Kirby, who would have been very friendly with the Malachy's lads and the Castletown lads. So, look, County Board stepped in, and in fairness to Clonkill as well, they both agreed that the game wouldn't go ahead. So, look, obviously condolences to Kirby's family, because it puts in perspective as well, boys, what we all do. Like, we love this game, and you know, when you see Verney walking towards you, Shane, after a game, you know that you might have had a good innings that day. I met him down in Wexford Park, and you know yourself, we love this game, and like I know the 2 years so passionate about it, and then you see what happened with that young man, and what's happened over the last kind of, Westmeath seem to have, they've had a lot of tragedy over the last couple of years. So just going on to yesterday with everything, it kind of reminded me of 18 against Crokes in the final, where I just felt we were going to get a draw at the end of it. And like, Killian had been quiet. He had missed a couple of frees. He'd said that himself. He wasn't his usual self. I got a couple really impressive long distance frees in the first half. And then, like, Loughlin Gales were a point up. Like, were absolutely fantastic, unbelievably heroic performance. And they're a point up. I think Mickey Dan announced 1 minute injury time, and there was 20 seconds gone. Raharney get a free, and like a nothing free really. Over on the sideline, Kieran Doyle hit it, and like I said, Killian had been quiet, and he just broke in behind, and everybody said put it over the bar. Now, Shane, like there was, I said it was close on 5. Like, it's so parochial up there, like it's so passionate. Like, Westmeath people are so passionate about their hurling, and like everybody that was Raharney was saying put it over the bar, because to draw the game, and he just took an extra 2 steps, and he gave Noel Connaughton no chance. Like, he buried it into the stanchion in the top corner. I've never seeing it. It was a heartbreaking ending, and then it just didn't stop there. Like Loughlin Gales actually got the puck out, went down to the far end of the field, and won a free 24, 25 yards out. And Derek stood up to hit it. And look, Derek has been, as Michael has been at a lot of our games as well. And like you said, you've been very kind to us, I suppose, over the last couple of years with how you cover, I suppose, the progress that we have made. But Derek stood up to hit the free. And like this was right or over stuff at the end. And he hit the free from 23, 24 yards, and it hit the butt of the post.
Oh, no.
Stopped at the post, Michael. And it was like, carnage for a couple of seconds, lads getting out. But I think it was, Robbie Greville came out with the ball, drove it up the field, and the referee blew the whistle. It was hard. I don't think there could have been, like, I felt for the Loughlin Gales because they're great lads and they've been brilliant for me. Tommy Doyle, Noel Connaughey, they've some really good young players coming through. They hadn't been hadn't won a county final in over 20 years. They hadn't been in one in maybe 12 or 13 years. I think Derek was still there at that stage, but it would have been some sign off for him, like because obviously he decided he was going to hang up the inter-county boots again this year at the end of it. But like, what a servant he's been for Westmeath. But I was heartache for Loughlin Gales. Like, they're a great club and some great lads that have been so good to me since I've gone up there. But look, Raharney, you have to give it to them. It's actually really a good one yesterday. Like someone was saying to me that like Robbie Greville captained Raharney yesterday, and they've three brothers now. 2006, his brother Johnny captained him, and then Paul captained him in 16, and then Robbie captained again. In the time scale, when you think of the time scale of that, it's incredible for a family. Their father obviously as well was a massively important servant for Westmeath in the goal too. But yeah, great day. But like, I'm actually tired today after being up the road because the passion that those boys put into their hurling, and it doesn't surprise me because I've been there 2 years now. But it's such a passionate hurling county and a really good county final yesterday. Just Raharney, they won it. They weren't right at the bottom of the cup that they were that they were a point down or 2 points down just before the end. So I just feel for the Loughlin Gales lads, but well done to Raharney on what was an epic final.
Yeah, can I ask you about the match the day before, actually? Because Nicky Kenny, who used to play with in Kula, he's been coach in Ringtown for the last couple of months, and I know he's absolutely loved it there, but wasn't their day. I think they were beaten, it was comfortable enough, we'll say, in the end.
Yeah, they were beaten well. I saw Ringtown in the semi-final, Shane, and they were really, really impressive. Like, they've got a good couple of young good players, Mark Cunningham, Luke Moore, who would have been in with us over the last couple of years. Some really good, Adrian Moore, I don't remember, would have managed the Westmeath under 21s when I was looking after Dublin at the time. So there was kind of it's from the same club, but like, yeah, it was Ringtown going into the final were probably seen as definitely it was equal enough, and just on the day just didn't happen from. But Plunkett's were really impressive. Like, Plunkett's the first 10 minutes, like, really, like, a lot of really impressive hurling, a lot of ball to hand. They have a couple of senior guys there involved as well. Aaron Craig was playing at centre back for them. Former Westmeath goalkeeper as well, Conor Lynch, was in goal, and they've got some really good players. David Gavin's a dual player, but they were very impressive on the day. And I'd say like Ringtown made massive strides in progress this year. And it's funny because when you get it's probably similar to what we have in Dublin as well, where obviously you saw the teams that went up this year found it difficult to stay up, and it's a hard jump, the same as probably what we've seen ourselves over the last couple of years going to Division 1 or going to Liam McCarthy. But like, it'll be a tough stage for Plunkett's next year, but they're a very passionate club, and they're putting massive work into and underage as well.
Joe, can I just ask you, what's the job of an inter-county manager like when the inter-county season is not going on, when the club season is going on? Are you up in Westmeath every week, every second weekend? I presume there's a hell of a lot of things have to go on in the background as well. Your setup just doesn't fall in place in November. I presume there's a hell of a lot of work has to go on the months beforehand.
There is, I suppose. Is it harder initially, maybe, Michael? When you get, when you're starting off in a new county where you haven't kind of been immersed in it maybe for a couple of years? Like, it'd be easier, I suppose, to do it in ways in Dublin because you're kind of constantly involved in some capacity at the club scene. This time of year, yeah, you're there every weekend. Like, I was up Friday night. Like, they did an up for the match on Friday night. Like, they're so trying to drive the standard of hurling and the passion for hurling and the support for hurling in the county. You couldn't, like, I just see a comment coming up. Like, the rivalry up there is incredible, but when they come together with the county, they're such a collective group and a strong group. But to answer the question, you're up, like, you're definitely up weekends watching games, and I suppose that's the hard part when you're not living in the county that you're looking after as well. That you're not on the ground. Now, you'd always have one or two spies as well to keep an eye on lads as well to make sure that they're keeping, especially keeping honest during the playing part of the year. But no, like, it's you're up and down. Like I was up Friday night for the match, which was a really, really beneficial night for Westmeath hurling, and then I was up Saturday for the B game, and then come back up the road then Sunday for the A final. So yeah, that's what you have to do. Like you're trying to find that one other nugget maybe that might be out there at whatever level it might be. I don't just go to the senior A games as well. The idea is to try and give and try and look as far as I can to maybe find one more or two more to add to the panel for 24.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like with the UCD freshers the last couple of years, you'll be seeing young lads from Westmeath coming through. There's always lads from Westmeath that go through UCD and Laois and the Midlands counties or whatever, and you can always see there's that little bit of talent there. But another thing I wanted to ask you was, do you remember last year when you won that league final against Down? And I remember you saying after the game about how, you know, a couple of months before that, that there was nearly like, I think you asked the players to nearly have a meeting, and like, what's the journey been like? Because obviously it wasn't brilliant when, you know, it was maybe March of that year and Down had beat you at home, but like some amount of ups and downs in the meantime.
Yeah, it's incredible, Shane. And the funny thing is, like when you're involved with a team like I am at the moment, I suppose the narrative that's sent out there, and maybe, you know, I suppose no manager does a course before you go in and tells you what the right thing to say and what the wrong thing to say. And Michael would know that for me when I come off the field. Like I don't do benchmark tokenism when you talk to people as well. I just give honesty. And I suppose the players at the end of that Down match, yeah, they were hurting, but it wasn't a directive by me to lock themselves into a dressing room, or they didn't do it where they just shut everybody out. It was a case where the leadership and I see it in Offaly as well, and I know some of the Offaly lads, and I see it in Laois, you know, the job that they've tried to do over the last, it has to be like there's a sense of, you know, if we really want to live and play and, you know, perform like, you know, the top teams, then it's not good enough to switch off for games where we should be winning. And what amazes me at times, Shane, is the effort and a sense of commitment that all these counties are putting in at this level to try and sustain their lives in Division 1 hurling or in Liam McCarthy. And it's like, I see the same for Laois and Offaly as well, what they're trying to do. It's so hard to maintain it, but the sense of togetherness and the sense of spirit that's in the group brought them together that day. There's massive highs, there's massive lows. Like we had a huge day in Wexford last year, a really, you know, high performing day the previous year in against Wexford also, but we just didn't finish the job then against Antrim. And, you know, I remember speaking to Darren Gleeson, and Darren's there 5 years. It takes time as well to bed in, I suppose, the ethos that you have as a manager and as a hurling person as well. It doesn't happen overnight. You need good people around you. Like I'm lucky enough that I have a really solid backroom team, and a backroom team that are loyal to me and loyal to what Westmeath want to do. But it takes time, Shane, and there will be down days. But I suppose that old saying that somebody said to me yesterday, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. But if you don't, you'll find an excuse not to do it. So I'm enjoying it. Like I'm not going to lie, I love my time there. It's a really passionate county, but the job I suppose now is to go back and with the opportunity of trying to get back to Liam McCarthy again. And
actually, I'm just looking at the fixtures for the Dublin semi-finals this coming weekend. Obviously, it's like 5 or 6 days away. But obviously, you know an awful lot of those Ballyboden lads very well. They're against Vincent's. And then Peter Kelly, of course, who's been involved with you, is involved with Lucan. And they're looking to make their breakthrough against Nafina, who are actually in the same boat as well. They're two very tasty semi-finals. Like, obviously, Coola and Crokes had won like 7 of the last 8. They're both out of it now. So Boden are the only team that have won it any time recently. It's very open.
Yeah. It is, and if you go back, Shane, I think one of the days, I know you were in doing a bit of commentary work as well, and when you see the stat, I think between those 3 teams, I think you have to go back to Crave Kieran in 2005 or 6, around that time, for the last team outside of those 3 clubs not like to win a county title, which is an incredible stat in Dublin hurling. Obviously, Boden have still an opportunity of getting there playing Vincent's. You know, Vincent's and Boden have had a lot of semi-finals over the last, in 18, when I was there, when we were lucky enough to win that final. We'd beaten Vincent's in the semi-final, and then in 19, Vincent's beat Boden in the quarter-final. They'd know each other really, really well. Like you know yourself, you know, Hedjo has been flying for Vincent's this year, and they'll really have to stop him to get a chance. But the other semi-final is an absolute, like Nafina beat Crokes, and I know you probably saw it and you mentioned it in the podcast as well. The amount of players Nafina lost, not only with Berkey, you know, not being available to them, but the players they lost over the course of that day was just like incredible. And yet they went on and beat, I suppose, who everybody's favourites for, with Crokes being in the, you know, Crokes being so good over the last couple of years. And I saw them every day that I saw them this year. They were exceptional. And it opens up. I don't think anybody, like you could listen to Michael talking today, and he could make a positive case for any of those 4 teams to win that county final. And of course, whoever comes out of Dublin now faces the Westmeath champions. So I'll be turning the phone off now, I can tell you, for the next 2 weeks.
It's funny, Joe, because we would have had Crokes nearly as Leinster favourites given what Ballyhale are missing, and they're gone. It's a fascinating one. There's a door open for somebody's going to have to go through it. And listen, maybe it'll be Ballyhale again. I sense it mightn't be, but somebody's going to have to go through it, and that's what makes it fascinating. Not even a Dublin title on the line. That's why I'd nearly be going back to Bowden with that bit of resolve and that bit of history that they have as well. And they obviously came good the last day and performed very well. So I wouldn't be that surprised if they were the one to go through the door.
They know how to win, I suppose. Like, they do know how to win when it comes to those big days. I think Lucan have a really serious good crop of players coming through. Na Fianna have had heartbreak for the last 2 years, Michael. Like, they've been that first county final. It was actually similar to yesterday. I was lucky enough to be doing a bit of work for RT on the first county final, and I'd given in my year, if I have any of you have ever done it, but like the guy is in the main guy is saying, look, you have to give man the match, and I was saying, hold off here, because like something could happen here in the last. You have to call it, Joe. You have to call it. I didn't want to call it, and the amount of text that people gave afterwards, going, "Why did you call man of the match?" Within, I'd say, 5 seconds of me mentioning, that I was giving it to young Sean Curry at the time. Bang, Hayes got the ball, stuck it in the back of the net, and it happened. And yesterday, the same thing. Young Owen Daly scored 4 points in play yesterday with Colossus at wing forward. Did really, really well. And like I said, Killian just, in the last second then gets the goal. And it's heartbreaking when you see a kid coming up as well, like when you lose a county final and you're going up to accept, man, like it's the worst place, I'd say, to be as well, to go up and to accept a trophy. But I suppose in the long term, he'll always remember that he was man of the match in the county final. Going back just on the Leinster campaign thing, like in 18 when we came out, people perceive that draw to be a little bit easier. And like we all know, like when you go into Leinster, it's a minefield and it's a completely different scenario. We went out, we had to play the Westmeath against Clonkill.
Sorry, I was thinking
it was Clonkill in 18 we played, and it went to extra time. And then we played the Offaly champions in the semi-final, Coolderry, and it went to extra time.
That's right, yeah.
Like, that's where I'd say most of the break kind of really kicked in that year, because there was so much going on. But then we faced that incredible Ballyhale team in the final. So, it's a minefield. Dublin are going to be up against the Westmeath champions. Like Raharney, on paper, have a seriously good team. They know themselves that they didn't play to their full potential yesterday, but some really good performance. Owen Keys, I thought, was very good at times. Joey Boyle, Killian just took that moment when he needed to. Robbie Greville just led him like a captain. So, there was nothing easy yesterday in Camross as well. Like I read a couple of reports on that this morning, and they seem to be extremely impressive with young Keys yesterday as well. So that Leinster campaign can be a minefield. And yourself, Shane, you can go in, and I know when you were cool as well, you go in and you were so successful and were the benchmark for any Dublin hurling team for years to come, and always will be. But it can be a minefield as well. You switch off for that minute, and all of a sudden you're down in Cusack Park, you're down in Portlaoise, or you're down in Burr, or whatever it might be, and just they won't give you anything handy down there.
I'm thinking Dr. Cullen Park against St. Mullins. I remember that well. Joe, I don't know if you have time for one more question. If you have to go, that's no problem. But if you have time for one more question, just your thoughts on the Joe McDonagh preliminary quarterfinals being retained, and just a question from Richard McDonagh saying, do you think an expanded McDonagh Cup might help bring on more counties, or is there not enough depth underneath?
Look, I suppose the big thing for me, Shane, and it's not a party political broadcast from me here, and I think the Joe McDonagh is a really important tournament, and it gives the counties that are trying to, I suppose, get to the next level, it gives them an opportunity and chance to showcase at a really high level. My only worry would be, I think that the winners, based on what's happened in the last 5 years, I think the winners deserve a shot of getting into a preliminary quarter-final. I'm not sure whether the runners-up, I think it would be very hard as a manager or a coach to lift a team who are in a Joe McDonagh final to potentially go in, like we saw this year with Offaly, so unlucky not to win that final, and obviously deserved, obviously on the day, whatever you want to call it. But Offaly having to go out 2 weeks later or a week later and play tip, like how would you lift your crew to do that? How would you lift your group to realistically do that? And like an expanded Joe McDonagh, what will it do? Will it languish some of those teams longer in it? I don't know if I have the full answer for it. I think 75% of the players felt in Joe McDonagh hurling that they wanted to go and represent. And I think we need to listen to the players on the ground. Matty Kenny got a fair, when Matty was playing against Laois that time, like Laois came out, Eddie Brennan came out on top. I know when Cork went up to Antrim, they didn't get things too easy in Antrim either. With Micheál Dunshire, I think after 3 minutes, I think there was only a point in it. I think the team that wins the chain deserves a shot at it in that particular year, but I'm not sure whether the runners-up do. I also say that are we at the level now where the Offaly's and Laois and Westmeaths of the Leinster Championship are closer than what they might have been 5 years ago to the teams that they could be closer to, if that makes sense. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
like Offaly and Laois and Westmeath are fighting fat at their back to play in a Leinster Championship. But like by name, is it a Leinster Championship because it's not Leinster counties only anymore? And that's not me, like, you know, the work that like Galway and Antrim are doing, and they've massively raised the standard in what Leinster have. But it's just something, I suppose, in the long term, if we're going to have a Joe McDonagh, then there has to be a realistic prize at the end. And I can understand how you could argue with me and say, well, the realistic prize is you've got another year next year in the Leinster campaign. So look, there's two sides. I'm just happy that the players seem to really want an opportunity and a chance. And I think the players, you know, devote so much of their lives at this level, I think give them an opportunity and chance to play, at least the winners anyway.
Yeah, well, Joe, look, thank you very much for giving us your time. I know you're very tight there today, but brilliant stuff, as always.
Cheers, Joe.
No hassle. Chat soon. See you. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, great to have an intercounty manager on the show there.
Hey, Shane, when he was describing the Westmeath final, I just thought Brian Mallochny, Killadang in 2020.
Yeah.
It just immediately came to mind. He could have tapped it over and probably forced, was it penalties, I think, at the time? But he went for the throat and rattled it into the top corner. But Jesus, Derek McNicholas hitting the butt of the post and the ball staying in around that area. Oh my God. It's just a pity there's probably not much footage of it going around, but it sounded like an unbelievably dramatic finale.
Yeah. Okay, we'll run through a few bits of news while we're chatting here. Actually, Joe made a fair point also about those teams that are just outside the Leinster Championship at the moment. And if we want to retain, like having, you know, a 6-team Leinster, for example, 5-team Munster, or throw Kerry into Munster, but like keeping it like maybe groups of 6 or whatever, you know, you'd think that in some ways the teams that are just in the Joe McDonagh that, you know, are Leinster teams, they might benefit from now being in a Leinster Championship because they're gone that bit closer and whatever. But maybe they've gone that bit closer because they're operating in a competition where they can be really motivated to get better. If they went back into Leinster and took a few trimmings, would it kind of knock some of the wind out of the sails, or should the competitions be reformatted?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I'm kind of really interested to see how Offaly take the setback of losing the McDonagh and then like the setback of all setbacks, taking that hockey in against Tipperary. Like, I'm very interested to see whether that's demoralising going into next year or whether it's a real eye-opener to where they are. But like, Offaly could be better in 2024 and still not get out of Joe McDonagh and still not get to the Joe McDonagh final. Like, very easily it could be Westmeath and Laois in the Joe McDonagh final in 2024, and Offaly could be 2 points a better team than they were this year. But that's just how competitive it is. And from Joe's point of view, I think like what you're really trying to do is making sure that when you go down, that you don't languish down there for a year or two, that you get straight back up. Like, Carlow came up, Carlow won the Ring in 17, the McDonagh in 18, competed well enough in Leinster in 19, but were relegated and didn't get to a final again until this year. Like, and that can happen so easily. I don't know if it would benefit those teams much going into Leinster. I think you have to go and win the McDonagh and prove that you're ready to compete at Leinster Championship level, like Antrim did. And I know they're not technically a Leinster county, but they were competitive enough in Leinster this year and obviously saved their status, got a draw with Dublin, beat Westmeath, and were competitive enough in a couple of other games. But I think it can look deceiving in the McDonagh as to how close you are when you're competing with teams that are at very, very similar level. You take a two steps up then going up to play a Galway or a Kilkenny. Maybe it's only one step up going up to play a Dublin or an Antrim, but you'll take a fair few hidings as well. I think you have to go and prove that you're ready for that level, and that's win the McDonagh and win it well enough if you can.
Yeah, and if we wanted to expand the point about teams from outside of Leinster being in Leinster, is it time to change the name of it to the Bob O'Keefe Cup or something like that rather than calling it the Leinster Championship? Joe didn't make that point, but I'm just wondering, based on that kind of topic.
Yeah, I don't know how the Leinster Council would take that. And that's what a lot of it comes back to, is
people being precious.
That kind of power struggle, really, and the power struggle within provincial councils to, like, probably particularly for football, to retain the provincial championships, because that's their little kind of nest egg almost, if you get me. That's what they operate off, and that's what they're going to pump back into clubs, and that's what any developments they're going to do probably comes off.
This way, right? I wouldn't really mind if they changed the name of the Munster Championship to the Mick Mackey Cup. I take that because, you know, even a tip person, we obviously don't enjoy Limerick winning everything, but that is the name of the cup. You have the Mick Mackey Cup, you have the Bob O'Keefe Cup, and then you absorb into a Leinster Championship after it. I'm willing to take that one on the chin.
Yeah, we're probably getting closer to that because since the McDonagh came in, well, everyone calls it the Joe McDonagh Cup. Obviously, they don't call it. You know, it's not a provincial name or whatever. But a lot of people are just calling it the Lee McCarthy now, aren't they? They're not calling it the All Ireland necessarily, or well, half and half maybe even. So maybe that's something that will come down the line as well because it's not the Leinster Championship. There's no point in saying any different. And if Kerry had won the McDonagh a couple of years ago, there would have been as many teams from outside Leinster in Leinster as there would have been actual Leinster counties. So listen, maybe that's something they'll have to look at. I think that's in the list of priorities. I'd say that's probably well down the pecking order. There's many other things that they need to get sorted and tidy up before they go looking at that.
Maybe we could call it the Jimmy Doyle Cup. I'd go with that as well. No problem.
You had something up there the other day about Man City and Arsenal playing and how the best counties don't play each other. And I think you mentioned some reference to Tip, of course. And Tip didn't get to play whoever since whatever. And immediately people just come in straight away. Sure, Tip have only won 2 games in 2 of their last 12 games or something like that. They haven't been competitive.
Yeah, that's the point I made by, like, Arsenal were playing Man City yesterday, and like millions and millions of people are, you know, mad to tune into it. And I'm looking at GA, and they play each other twice a season. All the best teams, well, every team in the top league, so you're guaranteed the top teams all play each other twice a year. And I'm looking at GA and thinking, we have all these counties that don't play each other for year upon year upon year. And the point I made was that Tip haven't played Kilkenny since 2019. So 2020, 21, 22, and 23. They've all gone by without these 2 massive rivals playing each other. And there was a period between, 71 and 91 or something like that, where Tip didn't play Kilkenny. How insane is that? Who sets up their competition structure so that the top teams don't play each other? Imagine like Arsenal and Man United not playing each other for 4 years during the time where the 2 of them were right there in the thick of it. It's insane.
Hey, there's a reason you didn't play them from 71 to 91, and that was because you were stink for most of that period.
We were stink, but we had to come through a Munster Championship, you know, Granby over there. Anyway, look, we'll come back to that point and plenty of other points as we go along. But Desi Farrell has agreed a new 1-year extension as Dublin manager. What do you make of that?
1 year or 2 years?
1 year extension into 2025. Yeah. So, you know, he's already there for next year, but it's another year on top of that as well. I'm sure for the players or whatever, they're happy enough with the continuity. And I'd say the county board are happy that they've got somebody who knows the current players and try to bring through a few more, because they do have to continue transitioning, because they will lose some massive names in the next year or so.
Yeah, it's gas though. This whole element of a last dance is a farce at this stage. Really. Well, maybe, but like Brian Fenton, I think, confirmed that he's playing on until 2024. I think he made a comment in the Times on Saturday where it was something like he'd love to play 10 seasons for Dublin. I think he started in 15, so his 10th will be next year. So he's staying on, obviously. I think Connor's doing a bit of travelling, but he's going to be back around. Like, will Cluxton slip off? We probably won't know until they play their first championship game, realistically. Who else was there talk? Dean Rock is the one that I probably think maybe will slip away, but I think the majority of the rest will probably stay on. So, and obviously you have the manager there. Manager slips away, chances of more players slipping away greatly increase, I think, because you have to prove yourself again to another manager. You know, even at club level, especially when you're an older player, and you've had a manager for 3 or 4 years, he knows you, knows your body, knows how much you can do, knows what you can do. Like in my case, anyway, would know limitations anyway, and knows where you should be playing. I was going to put that at you, but I was going to put it at my own door. I was going to put it at my own door instead. New manager comes in, you kind of have to do all the training again. You kind of have to prove yourself again. Whereas I think it makes sense for Daisy and Dublin to keep that continuity, keep what they have. Certain players, but I'm sure, have to be treated differently within the setup. That's just the nature of it, particularly with age at this stage. And I wouldn't see much turnover of bodies. And I think they have 9 now. Will James McCarthy stay on for 10? Yeah, I'd imagine so. Will Mick Fitz do the same? I'd imagine so again. And I'd say there's conversations been had at Dean Rock's wedding or whoever's some other wedding that's going to happen, and be like, listen, the band is staying together for another year. And I'd say the vast majority of probably will.
Yeah, so Davy Fitz, he's boosted with the returns of Kieran Bennett and Ian Kenny to the squad next year. Like, Ian Kenny seems to have had a bad enough time with injuries He was even playing Premier Intermediate, was it, this year with Ballygunner, until more recently coming back into the starting team. Those are two good players to be able to add in. Like, if you look at Kieran Bennett, especially during his time with Liam Cahill, he was used in several different positions. And obviously, Ian Kenny's very good as a marking corner back, very muscular sort of player, very physical sort of player, gets stuck in, has done well on Owen Cody in the past. And there's no point in mentioning anyone else he's marked. If he's done all right in Owen Cody, he's obviously a very good player.
Yeah, definitely. Both have started All-Ireland finals as well. Good lads to have around a squad. Kenny can probably play 2, 4, 5 or 7 if he has to. Bennett can play anywhere probably between 5 and 12, you'd imagine. So
you could actually see him doing a Barry Nash type role if you wanted him to.
You could, yeah. The only problem I had with Kieran Bennett at times is I thought he took the ball into contact a bit too much. That was all, but no, very, very good player, obviously. Interesting to hear. I know there's a couple of other Waterford players abroad at the minute. Interesting to hear whether they're going to stay abroad and keep that taste that's probably diff when you're over there. I tell you, coming back to, I'm looking outside, the weather is nice at the minute, but when you're staring into dreary, dark, long evenings, miserable evenings, as opposed to being on a beach living it up with lads, it's tricky enough. I'm sure there's some difficult enough phone calls being made, or there's a bit of coaxing going on in the background, but it'd be interesting to see who they have and who they don't have. But keeping or getting back those two lads, very, very important.
Jay Kwan says, do you think Davy will change his hurling style / tactics next year at Waterford? Oh, well, do you think that he changed them for the last game against Tipperary? Let's put it like that. Now, it was a much improved performance. I don't know how much you want to say is down to Tipperary being poor, how much was down to Waterford being excellent that day. There's probably a little bit of both. That's true. Do you feel that he changed the tactics that day? Like, did we see Desi Hutchinson closer to his normal position? I'm pretty sure, from memory, he did play inside with Patrick Fitzgerald that day, didn't he?
Patrick Fitzgerald, yeah. Both of those played inside the 13 for nearly the whole game. And that
to me was a marked change, which suggests that for next year we might. Now, what I'm wondering about is the puck out, for example, which is just crucial. It's like the set piece in rugby. If your puck outs aren't right, defending and attacking, there's about 70 puck outs in a game. That's 70 opportunities to get your shape right. If they had all their players outside the 45 at times when they were taking their own puck outs, and I know opposition sit back, but I still don't think that it's the right thing to drop everyone that far outside, because all of a sudden if you lose the puck out, then everyone's sprinting backwards, and no defense wants to be sprinting backwards. So I think if he changes that, and the suggestion of what we saw against Tipperary in the last game with Desi and Patrick Fitzgerald inside, yeah, I think they can be better, and I think that's a suggestion he is open to change.
Yeah, it was way more direct as well, Shane. Like, there wasn't loads of dilly-dallying, and they weren't just carrying the ball for the sake of it. They were actually putting the ball into dangerous positions, and they had dangerous players in those dangerous positions. Amazing to think that Patrick Fitzgerald, as young as he is, that was his first game to start. He's guaranteed starter from now on. You've got two snipers inside, like absolute snipers of him and Desi, who have an unbelievable chemistry at club level. Just put them in there and don't see any of this messing around with Desi out the pitch and this kind of crack. Like, that's just messing around. You're messing up one of your best players. They're obviously going to be without Austin now. I'd be hoping that he would take on board what they brought to the table that day and think, yeah, if we mix things up a bit more, we can bring a lot more to the table. We can be even more competitive. I just don't like the element of players looking out to the sideline the whole time, wondering what should they do or who should I follow, this kind of crack. You just don't see the best teams at it. They're all playing off their own kind of instinct. They're making their own decisions on the pitch. And I hope there's a bit more freedom next year, because if there is, you throw them into the mix, it'll make Munster even more interesting than it already is.
Yeah. Okay, look, there was the Meath County final yesterday, and fair play to Ratoath, to Summerhill, I should say. They came out on top after extra time, 22 points to 113. But this incident, I have to say, this is the Ratoath cornerback, and he did get booked for it, which is fine. But like, we talked last week about what happened, and I made a point of Paddy Small leaving in late tackles and on a couple of Kilmacud Crokes players. And this weekend, people might have seen that Shane Walsh didn't start and he came on with a face mask on. So obviously there was a little something left on him. I just, it's not a good look even for Club GAA. Never mind everything else. He did have a look up. He knew what he was doing as far as I'm concerned. And it was a clear red, and it was a bad one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hammer the individual in question, because we could have hammered a hell of a lot of lads over the last while. And just talking about the challenges in general, like, the Summerhill player is down on his knees. Like, where is the shoulder in inverted commas going to hit, even if he's standing up straight? Do you know what I mean? It's just really, really reckless. And listen, I love physical hurling and I love physical football, but that sort of stuff is like potential. And I'm not blowing it up too much, but there's the potential to like destroy lives with that type of stuff. There really is. Like, there's just way too over the top. Lads getting hit in the head, concussions, God knows what else in time. God knows what the GA could be staring down the barrel of in 20 or 30 years' time if we allow that sort of thing to go on. And I'm not saying I want like that we can't have physical games. I love physical games, but that's not physical. Like that's yeah. And that has no.
Anyway.
Yeah, it is. It has no place in the GA to me. And I think they're going to have to just stamp it out. Those type of they're not tackles. They're not tackles at all. And you have to have the serious threat of a red card looming over you, or lads will continue to do it. Like, Shane, we could have put out a video or a tweet at least 3 times a weekend with games that are televised of incidents like that. And they're going to continue to happen at all codes. They were as bad at minor and under 20 as they were at senior. And lads were getting away with them, and they're going to continue to do them and get away with them until we come down really, really harsh. And then all of a sudden, there'll be a load of red cards handed out, and the headlines and the reports will all read 13-man whatever and 14-man whatever. And then in a year's time, lads won't be doing the tackles anymore, and the game will be an awful lot better for it.
Yeah, and you know what? While we're on this topic of stuff that was a little bit unseemly over the weekend, Scottstown, they beat Cardiff 113 to 1-6, I should say, in the semi-final of Monaghan, and they're going to meet Inniskeen in the semi-final, who beat Clontibbert O'Neill's. But look, there was another incident, and again, there's loads of games going up and down the country, so it's easy to cherry pick a few things here and there. But I just thought this as well, sort of, the fake little, need towards the physio, and then you see another player here now throwing water on top of the physio and the player being looked after. And again, look, at the end of the day, nothing happened. It's somewhat, much ado about nothing. But the knee, absolutely needless. Throwing the water, harmless, but needless. What's been gained by doing it? And you've got a physio, the only person in there who's actually there in a professional capacity, in the sense that all physios are paid. We all
could have been a doctor, Shane, as well, actually. It could have been a doctor, I think someone mentioned, yeah.
He's in there doing an important job, and you have players coming up at this crack. And again, like, it's not that we want to hammer the players forevermore. Hijinks happen on the pitch, but it's just, I think it's worth pointing it out so that the next person thinks twice.
Yeah, like, I just don't know what was gained from either of those. And it said there was no contact or anything involved, but like trying to be the big man or something in that scenario, like, that's, to me, that's kind of, it's more cowardly than anything else, to be honest with you. And maybe it comes with the fact that they were under pressure in the same game. I think it was Jack McCarron was down in that incident, but no, just really, really stupid stuff that we just don't really need to see in the game. And like the fact that the officials were right there, and right there to see what was going on as well. It's a wonder that they weren't really dealt with. I don't think they were dealt with at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So that's it's, I suppose, for Summerhill, is it 10 years since they've been in the final?
Think they'd been beaten in 4 as well. A good buddy of mine is involved actually with them, Paul Larkin. Delighted for him. He's been soldiering with them a long time. His brother David kicked some lovely points actually as well. And Owen Frayne kicked some big points. He was just talking. I heard an interview with Owen Frayne after. You could just see him actually in tears as well. Like, they've had a fair amount of hardship. He's only on the squad about 3 years, but he was just talking about some of the older guys who've been there 10 years. And it's difficult to keep coming back and going to the well every time. But if you keep going to the well, you'll eventually get water. And I'd say they're on more than water last night and today and tomorrow and the next day.
They'd last 4 finals, hadn't they? I'll tell you, the bravery of Brian McMahon. Did you see him going in for that high ball, and he padded one to the net, so it was a shot that dropped short. He managed to get his hand in there, so fair play to him, but unfortunately he ends up on the wrong side. So Screen, they survived, maintained their senior status with a 112 to 11 point win over Moynalby yesterday.
Just Clare, on that, Jen, really quickly, Screen are have been senior all their history in Meath, and they've produced the likes of Colin O'Rourke, Liam Hayes, John McDermott, Trevor Dials, I think Paddy Hans O'Brien. They've had an involvement in every Meath senior All-Ireland. I think they're the only club that has had that, and they've been struggling this year. I think they parted ways with their manager after the semi-final. Mick O'Dowd took over. He was player manager when they won in 04. And Mick O'Dowd actually was involved with Screen yesterday at 11:15 in Walterstown. And then I presume it's the same Mick O'Dowd that was manager with Clonlara yesterday as well. So he had a fairly busy day. They'd obviously be on the border with Monaghan as well. But I'm sure while he was disappointed over Clonlara going out, I'm sure very happy to keep his own club up. And they didn't follow the same route that Clare Castle and Glen Rovers and who's the other? Rathnure have had this year as well. They've over the guts of 90 years of senior football in Meath, so they held on to their senior status for another year at least.
So the Clare semi-finals on this weekend. I just want to mention the player who did the scoring for Crusheen over the weekend, or most of the scoring, Breffney Horner. Now, we like to think that GA is open to absolutely anyone of any background, and I don't know, he could have the exact same type of background as you and I. But it did occur to us that it's just, I've come across his name before because we've obviously looked at Crusheen games many times. But like Breffney Horner, there's not too many names like that. I'd often think rugby background is where you hear a name like Breffney. And we were just asking ourselves then, what are the most sort of untypical GA type names? Now, Horner isn't, that, out of kilter, but Breffney might be a little bit. And we were thinking, like, what's the most typical GA name and the most untypical GA?
Yeah.
Will you take it away there?
I'd say most typical would be something like John Murphy, something like that. John Murphy, John Smith, John McGrath.
John Smith is it as quintessential English. Like in Pocahontas, isn't it? Captain John Smith is the name because it's typical English, man.
Pocahontas, by God. But there are a fair few Smiths playing GA now, too, all the same. John McGrath would be another one. McGrath, John O'Dwyer, that type of name.
Brian.
Like, yeah, do you know what I mean? Like they're all your kind of quintessential, it's a GA names. I'd be interested to see what people think are like. Maybe it's great to see it. There are a lot more names kind of popping up in GA clubs all around the country that you wouldn't see, and it's it's great to see, and it shows how all inclusive the GA is, and that's more and more names popping up, more and more different backgrounds and ethnicities as well. Excuse me. Struggle to get that one out, but it's great to see, and it's going to be more and more common in the next 10, 15, 20 years as well.
Yeah, so untypical ones, we were saying Lyndon Fairbrother of J.K. Brackens, Kobe MacDonald, isn't it? Kieran MacDonald in Mayo. His son is Kobe, isn't he? He's only a young lad now.
Oh yeah, I heard he's tasty enough as well. I think he has the left foot as well, by all accounts.
Yeah, and then there's a Cuba O'Callaghan that plays with maybe Ballahadreen in Mayo. Is it Ballahadreen? Yeah,
there's a Cuba sub goalie for Carlow footballers, I think, as well, to be honest with you. Victor Manzo is a great one for Thomas.
Yeah.
He was brilliant in their quarter final as well. Very, very good player, very, very fast inside forward as well. But again, kind of not your kind of typical name. John Quan says Brian Murphy equals traditional. Yeah. Well, there's a couple of Brian Murphys, Cork anyway. There's a Brian Murphy or a Brendan Murphy kind of in most counties and most clubs, you'd say as well.
Yeah, Joe Butler says Abassi plays full forward for Castlebar Mitchells. What's his first name, Joe? Or is that the first name? What's the second name? All tip names too, says Richard Hogan, in terms of like some of those unusual names. Hank Trainer for Meath was a great name.
Great name. Oh, Hank.
Yeah, that's the Hank guy in Simpsons.
Hank
Scorpio.
Hank Scorpio, yeah. Hank Trainer was one of the great names. Yeah, brilliant name.
Yeah, Zane Keenan says Richard Murphy. Yeah, Zane Keenan sounds like someone who'd present a show back on MTV back in the day.
Yeah, Zane was celebrating last night. I'd say he was probably up milking cows this morning, knowing his background, but they had a right win in Laois, which we'll get on to in a bit. Fly through another few interesting names. Adrian McGrath says Ikem Ugueru, that's obviously the Clare footballer. SSRI, Paddy Rashitsu was Laois hurling captain in 1949 v Tip. Very, very good. John Kwan, Lawson Abular. Yeah, he was pictured a lot actually in that game. And Richard Hogan says Zach Bay Hammond, who was a Kilkenny minor a couple of years ago. There were a few other ones would have been. Let me think. There are a lot of other kind of unusual kind of non-GA names, but as I said, there's going to be more and more over the next 20, 30 years, and it's great.
Yeah. Keep the comments coming in. We'll revisit that if we get enough comments in on that. But anyway, back to Scariff and Crusheen. So Crusheen had a 124 to 19 points win there. And we talked about it beforehand. Like, you thought that there was this high-flying young team. It was going to be Crusheen, the men, against Scariff, the up-and-coming young hurlers. Now, I'm not saying Scariff the boys, obviously these are men, but Crusheen are so seasoned, they're so used to sort of horsing teams out of it, that this was always your fear for Scariff, who are really, really talented. Patrick Crotty, I suppose Mark Rogers being the obvious one. Players like this, really, really good. But it seems that for the most part, they were shut down. Rogers got a couple of points from play. Crotty got a couple of points from play. I'm sure Adrian McGrath will come in with a comment there because he's a Scariff man and let us know how he felt the game went. But it just seems like Crusheen, the physical team, Jerry O'Grady, to be fair to him, I think he's 42, is he now at this stage?
41, I think, yeah. And he's club chairman as well, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it is. Actually, I'm going to come back to that in a second, but you might give your thoughts on Crusheen Scariff. But
I didn't think if it was going to be this type of high-scoring game that maybe Crusheen would be victors, to be honest with you. I thought that, if it was going to be like 117 to 15 points or something like that, the Crusheen to win, but to put up a big score like 124, still concede a big enough score in 19. But like Crusheen, obviously Breffney Horner was brilliant as well. Going through, Keane Dillon was very, very solid in defence. Obviously, he stepped away from the Clare panel a couple of years now, but still brings that wealth of experience. And Aidan Hart really seems to have them humming, you'd have to say. And there's talk of him potentially been involved with a county team in time as well. And maybe it won't be till after Crusheen's run finishes that would be announced. But he's definitely taken them from left field to a county final, you'd have to say.
Yeah, and so bringing up Jerry O'Grady being the county chairman, club chairman, I should say, who's playing in a county final now. I saw Aina Daly reply to Derek Lynch, who's Clare FM, and said Clongish will have chairman Ronan Sweeney, vice chairman David Barden, and secretary Gerard Moore, all starting in the Longford county final next Sunday. Now, beat that.
Yeah, that's savage going, in fairness. And like I've been involved with our own committee in Bird probably the last 10 years. But just doing a bit of PRO work and stuff like that, to actually be the chairman making decisions, vice chairman doing the same. The secretary, like, to me, the secretary is the most thankless job in a GA. And you need like really good people doing it. You need to be on top of it. And it's probably another 20, 25 hours onto your week. And then add in the 20 hours of probably playing, training, getting ready, diet, etc. And then throw in your 40 hours of work. There's not too much time left. So the boys are doing an outstanding job. There's a couple of lads I think it was Patrick O'Connor that plays in Sligo. He took on one of the roles within his own club, maybe during COVID as well, along with another county player. They were there for a year or two, but it's a fair effort to be doing it in the boardroom and doing it on the pitch.
Adrian McGrath says Crusheen were outstanding. Their hurling was exceptional all through. It would be a complete disservice to say that they horsed us around. Yeah, if you want to give us more details, Adrian, I'd be happy to read them out. A few other names. Abdullah Abbasi is what Joe Butler says. He expands on the name that he gave us earlier. Stefan Akunbar, it says Richard Hogan. What's the name of that goalkeeper from Kerry that ended up going down to down under?
No, you have me there. There's a question fired at me there, though. Traumspieler says, Verney is hardly a common name. What's the background of it, Michael? No, very uncommon. There's ones in Verney's in Wicklow, Galway, Offaly and Kildare, and they're all related to us. They're all the ones. We are the only ones in the country. And there's it's French origin to the best of my knowledge.
What's the name in Irish?
Overnig, spelled several wrong ways. There's no V in Irish, so it's Ofada Bheirnigh. I've had MacFairig, O'Fairig, all these different names.
Fairy, I'm hearing Fairy here.
Mihal O'Vernigus and I'm dumb from the old Irish, the Irish oral days.
Yeah, Davidus Uosis was the name of that Lithuanian-born Kerry goalkeeper who went down to the AFL. My name in Irish is Machan Guil, which means son of the foreigner.
The same, son of the foreigner.
But that's because of the old Viking background. So I suppose you can see by the old hairy face there's a bit of a Viking vibe to me. Adrian McGrath says this is talking about Crusheen. They had a great spread of scores and pulled us totally out of shape. Our lads chased it very hard and got some great scores, but Donald too, he made a couple of point blank saves which were crucial. Verney says PWL74, you do look French now that you mention it.
I definitely don't. I enjoy a nice croissant, all right, but that's about it.
Okay, the other Clare semi-final saw Clonlara beat Fecal 23 points to 15. That was pretty comprehensive the whole way throughout. And Clonlara are into our first county final in 6 years. And all the times you put them down, they're finally going to stick it up to you, Verney.
Yeah, I tell you, they'll get plenty of it in the final against Crusheen. You'd be a brave man to call that one, but they've definitely backed up. Like I thought they were really good against their Rogue. Mixed kind of physical play with kind of smart play as well, and they've really backed it up. Like I thought there was a fair chance it could be Fecal and Scariff, kind of two surprise teams, ended up in the final. But Clonlara, yeah, Michael O'Loughlin, very good, 8.7 frees. Aidan Moriarty hit 5 from play. Colin Galvin with 3 as well. Ian Galvin with 3. John Conlon didn't score and they still won the game pretty convincingly. He was brilliant in the quarterfinal against the Rogue, so that's a good sign going into the final. From Fecal, despite being beaten in the semi-final, it's still a brilliant year after just coming up. And you get the sense that Fecal and Scariff are going to be around a long time. The only thing is, it could be around a long time, but you might never get another championship where Ballyea, Aina Kilnamona, Cratloe and the Bridge aren't in around that scenario. So, like, I've often said this before, like, it could be, they could both of the losing semi-finals could be better next year by 3 or 4 points, but still not end up in that situation again. It's just the way it's after opening up. So it's a glorious opportunity for both Crusheen and Clonlara, who were probably not being talked about. Like, if you're looking at the teams, what was the betting probably in Clare beforehand? Ballyea and around the Bridge, Éire Óg were probably very, very high. Cratloe wouldn't have been a million miles away. So like, there's a big opportunity for the two that are in the final now, an opportunity they might not get again. And it'd be mad if Clonlara win the B last year. And I think they've won a couple of Bs in a row and then go on and win the A next year. It's not, obviously, I think Ballyea are in the B final. Not 100% sure who they're playing in it. But that'll be a good final. It'll be a hard-hitting final as well, Crusheen and Clonlara.
Yeah, so let's see. And the winner, actually, of the Clare final will play the Tipperary champions, who's going to be the winner between Thurles and Kildangan. Both teams just one match away from being in the Munster final. Verney sounds like the Irish have burned gone arseways, says Paul Scully.
It's definitely something gone arseways anyway.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Traumspieler says Stritch from Clonlara is another unique name. There's definitely, isn't there a physio Kevin Stritch or something like that?
I think he's a coach, actually. Yeah, I think he's a coach.
Yeah.
Might have been involved with Galway under Joyce, maybe. I think he might have been.
Stage, maybe.
I think it's Kevin Stritch, is it? It's definitely not a common name anyway.
Yeah, okay. A Kildare native. Involved with Ratoath in the past as well. I just quickly Googled there. The Kilkenny Senior Hurling relegation final was on over the weekend. Erin's Own 117, Danesfort 115. So that's Richie Hogan and co gone back down. And Conor Fogarty scored a crucial goal in first half stoppage time that gave his side the lead there, and they held on to it at the end. Jack Buggy scored 10 points, 9 of those were frees. John Dowd, Martin Bourne, Conor McMahon, Michael Brennan, Aidan Moore, and Jamie Hoolan and Shane Coogan, they all scored a point apiece. So it was very much a team effort from Erin's Own. 1-6 for Richie Hogan. A point of that came from play. Paddy Hickey with 2, and several other players with a point each. So, like, Erin's Own, actually, do you know what? You say Erin's Own, you say Crusheen. I think of a similar sort of team in the sort of sense that they are a team that are rugged and never going to go down easy. And Danesfort, after performing quite well against Ballyhale, that's going to be a bitter pill to swallow.
It definitely is. And there's talk of a couple of their bigger players potentially going travelling next year as well. So, you know, everyone knows how much of a shark tank the Kilkenny Intermediate Championship is. So there's no guarantee that they're going to go up, go down and come back up again, particularly with Richie Hogan's getting older and obviously has been injury plagued. Paul Murphy the same. Paddy Hogan's not getting any younger. So that it could be very, very difficult to come back up. Conor Fogarty made a bit of a miraculous recovery, because I think he did the hamstring in their preliminary quarterfinals, relegation semi-finals, so he did very well to get back. And obviously his goal was ultimately the difference. They didn't have a great year, Corner, but all that kind of matters at the end of the year is that you save your status. And remember, we had JJ Delaney on the show not too long ago talking about relegation finals and the pressure involved in them. So, like, you'd celebrate. It sounds mad maybe to celebrate keeping your status, but with the pressure involved, and you see all the high-profile teams went down this year, you definitely let your hair down for a couple of days after. And JJ actually said as well, like, you kind of thinking after the relegation final, you know, after producing that type of a display and saving your bacon, like, how come we can't get a good run and maybe contest a semi-final or a final? But it's a different type of, you raise your game because of the pressure that's around it and all the kind of history that's involved with saving your stats. But they'll be happy in Castlecomer now for the next couple of days anyway.
They'll be fairly happy in Camross as well, because they beat Abbey Leaks very comprehensively there, 4-18 to 14 points. And I missed last Thursday's show, but you had Ross King on, and he said that Tomas Keys was going to be the difference in this game. And could he have flagged it any better than that?
Not really, no. He said Mossy Keys would be the difference. It finished 4-18 to 14 points. So Mossy Keys' 3-6 was basically the difference. They won by 16 and he scored 15. So it was essentially the difference. He referred to him as Messi on the show last day, which I thought was funny because he's called Mossy. But he delivered some like brilliant goals, really dangerous inside. They pulled Abby Leaks out. They hunted them really, really early in the game from the bits I saw. And just listen to David Cuddy after their manager. They went to try and break their hearts early. And for first-time finalists, they're not first time since 1949. They didn't want to let them get up ahead of steam. And Camross, the game was over really at half-time. And it's funny, Camross were beaten by 11 in the final last year. They were flagged to be, in around there again this year, but probably weren't favourites to win it at the start. But it's amazing. I'd kind of maybe refer to someone like Coolderry and Offaly, teams that have these like a massive tradition. Coolderry are just head of the roll of honour in Offaly, even win county finals when they're not expected. Camross the same. Like a load of young players coming up. Like from a Camross point of view, to see that Zane Keenan only scored 1 point of their tally, to me is actually hugely encouraging for what's coming, because people would have been worrying who's going to fill the breach when he eventually retires, and that's coming in a couple of years. And obviously the likes of Mossy Keys are gonna fill the breach, you'd imagine, as well. And they have a decent history in Leinster from back into the 80s, and that they'll have plenty of time to get over this and enjoy it. And they probably will give Leinster a good lash. A Leinster championship that could be really, really open.
Yeah, like any time I've seen Tomas Keys, I've been very impressed by him. He seems a really dynamic player, a bit of a scorer. And manager David Cuddy said afterwards, there's no point in pucking in high ball into Mossy, but when he gets it, he's lethal. Sometimes we struggle to think why we have no one on the Laois county team. That's one for another day. Sometimes we struggle to think, that's for another day. But with the hunger and fight these guys have, I can't understand it. And like you said, home against Naas in 2 weeks' time, a game they'll fancy, but like we saw Naas last year with how they've performed in the last few years at intermediate and senior level. And he said, we're going to give Leinster a lash, a home game in the next round. We want to show that we're as good as anybody, and Laois hurling is as good as anywhere. And I'm sure they saw Rathdowney Earl getting to a Leinster. Was it Rathdowney Earl or was it? No, sorry, apologies. Getting to a Leinster final a couple of years ago, and they're thinking, why can't that be us? And look, we'll actually come to the club power rankings pretty soon. But it's interesting, some big hitters are gone. So the likes of Kilmacud Crokes, who we probably have in the conversation, are gone. Jeez, it's going to be very difficult to do that. But like, if you're a Camross or whoever, you're thinking, well, why can't we beat the team from Kildare? And why can't we, so on and so forth?
Yeah, you've written off. I don't know who Naas are playing in the county final this weekend, but they've been well written off. They've been well written off. But listen, I'm not sure who they're playing. Is it Selbridge or... I'm actually not 100%, and we'll get to it on Thursday. But Naas would be roaring favourites. And not a million miles off favouritism in Leinster, I'd say, at this stage.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to the next part. We see Tight Marker saying Lyndon Fairbrother. We did actually mention him. Let's see. On holidays here, boys, reading the double about Cork from 1990. Adrian Russell wrote that. Great read. Any other great GA books you recommend? What comes to mind for you?
I loved reading Liam Dunn's book back in the day. I thought it was really, really honest.
Liam Hayes would be another one.
Yeah, Liam Hayes is very good. I thought Jackie Tyrrell's book kind of lifted the lid on a lot of the stuff in Kilkenny and was very honest. Bernard Brogan's is a very good read, actually, because you actually get a real good insight into his psychology and even some of his conversations and stuff with Jim Gavin, and basically telling Jim, like, and kind of nearly cursing him out and this kind of crack. I thought it was really revealing. Very, very good book as well. Just thinking, there's probably...
When the World Stops Watching from Damien Lawler.
Yeah, excellent book too. And do you know what book slipped under the radar, but it's really good, is Rory Kavanagh's autobiography. Jimmy McGuinness's Until Victory Always is very good. I would say Kavanagh's is nearly better, and it's even better insight. The best of it all is just that he couldn't believe that Jim McGuinness got the Donegal job. All he referred to Jimmy McGuinness was when he was a player was Jimmy Tunes, because he obviously was into his music or whatever and looked a bit like Jesus. And he was just like, someone said to him, Jim McGuinness is the new Donegal manager. And he was like, Jimmy Tunes is the Donegal manager. And then they go on to do, obviously, what they did.
Okay, well, keep your comments coming in and let us know what you think is the best GA book going there. Richard Hogan, he's talking about the Danesford game against Aaron's three key points in this game. Danesford could have had a second goal late on in the first half and missed. Fogarty scored at the last puck of the first half, and finally Ben Whitty got a straight red card in the second. So it's always great to get those details from people who are on the ground there. The Westmeath final we've already talked about, and if you missed it already, go back and watch Joe Fortune talking about Raharney beating Loughlane Gales just at the death there. The Tyrone Senior Hurling final, Dungannon Owen Rua 2-6, Éire Óg and Carrickmore 1-15, 2-6 to 1-15. So great win there for Éire Óg. In the Kildare semi-finals. Do you want to actually do the power rankings before we go any further?
Yeah, I think so. Listen, it's a very, very difficult one to do, but I think we'll give it a go. Will we both agree with the top one? Is that like there's very, very few things I think our teams and positions will agree on, but will we both agree that in terms of
I think we agree on everything here. Like we have
but there's going to be a fair bit of horse trading. And you think someone is 2, I think it's 4. It'll be 3 or whatever. Or I think someone is 2 and you think they're 10, and you'll eventually agree with me and put them in at 2. Do you know what I mean?
You are a bully. Like there's no doubt about that. You're a real bully, and I never thought I'd be. As a kid, I was bullied once or twice. Don't want to make everyone feel bad for me, but didn't think someone like you would be bullying me. Right, start off. Who's number 1? Who is your number 1 in the power rankings?
I think Ballygunner are a clear number 1 because they're definitely no worse than they were last year, and they're potentially better than they were last year. Plus, they've won their county championship and are in place and know how to negotiate that gap. Like there are very few guarantees in this power rankings, but they're probably one of them.
So let's see then. I suppose if you're looking at the teams that are going to be in the mix, the Pearshig are going to be in the mix. I would imagine. I know they've got, we're not finished up in Limerick just yet, but I would make them my favourites to come out of Limerick. I'd make Thurles my favourites for Tipperary, and because it's going to be Clare against Tipperary in the semi-final there, this is based on my projections. I'd be putting Thurles high up the list. Who do you think is going to win? You think Loughrea are going to win Galway, don't you?
Just about. Yeah, I think there could be a bit of a change in the guard in Galway, but saying that, maybe Thomas's will be drove by the hurt of Dunloy last year, but they are missing Davy Burke. They're going to get it tough against Sarsfields this weekend. If they get over that, they'll get it tough in the final against either Turlock or Loughrea. I just couldn't confidently put them in. But saying that, does that mean they're going to put Loughrea ahead of Thomas's, who are going for 6 in a row in Galway? And where do Ballyhale come into the situation here? Personally, I don't think they're going to win Kilkenny, but they're defending All-Ireland champions. They're going for 6 in a row in Kilkenny. Do you know what I mean? Where do you figure them in the mix here?
Well, I put Ballyhale probably number 2 here all the same. I think you just can't ignore what they've done over the years.
Yeah.
Look, they have TJ. They have.
I'm not saying. I don't think they'll win Kilkenny. That's just been honest.
What have you got against Ballyhale?
I have absolutely nothing against them. Far from it. I do. I think O'Loughlin Gales will win Kilkenny. Been honest with you. But can you put the All-Ireland champions, the defending All-Ireland champions, despite the fact they're missing Joey Holden, Joey Cuddihy, Brian Cody and Ronan Corcoran, can you put them anywhere else but there? Do you think Ballyhale would win Leinster, missing who they're missing, if they get out of Kilkenny?
Yeah. I think if they get out of Kilkenny, they will go on, because I think they're only going to get stronger.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about that, to be honest with you. I actually don't know, because I think they've no one really injured at the moment. I actually think they could potentially get weaker as it goes on.
Right.
Well, if they pick up, I put it this way, Colin Fennelly's probably going to miss the county semi-final.
Yeah.
And I still think they'll get over the Village. Would they win a county final without him? I don't know. And the fact that he's coming back from Dubai. And you can clip this out, Pat Hoban or Adrian Mullen or whoever. I honestly think it looked like they were on their last legs nearly the last day, and they found something. I'm just not sure how can they keep finding. But as I said, I do think the quarterfinal was the time to beat them. I'm not sure they're going to get out of Kilkenny. Now I could end up with egg on my face, but be interesting to see.
So Conor Heaney says, what is Verney based in Ballyhale not winning Kilkenny? And I think you've kind of outlined it there.
Well, they're missing the club hurler of the year, and to me, their best defender in Joey Holden. They're missing Joey Cuddihy, who would chip in with anything between 2 and 4 points per game. Who else are they missing? They're missing Brian Cody, obviously only came on the All-Ireland final, and didn't play much last year. Very, very good player anywhere from midfield up. And they're missing Ronan Corcoran as well, who's a very, very good player too. So like they don't have huge depth. That's 4 away. So that means Owen Reid, who saw very little time last year, is seeing a bit of time. You're going deep into your reserves, I'll put it to you that way. And if Colin Fennelly is missing, that means there's one starter and your bench is coming in a bit weaker then. It's all has a knock-on effect.
I agree with this point from PWell74. You can't write off Ballyhale until they're in their cars going home, heads down in bed. Who do you think that, and I'm looking at it here, who do you think the bookies have as the favourite to win the Leinster Championship?
The Leinster Championship, Ballyhale are definitely favourites to win the Leinster Championship. And strong favourites.
Right, so we basically have, I'm voting for Ballyhale, you're voting for O'Loughlin's, and the bookies are voting for Ballyhale. So will we just kind of split the difference and go for Ballyhale?
No, well, like, listen, you'd be wrong probably not to put them number 2. I just think in 3 weeks, I don't think they'll be. I'm not sure if they'll be in the equation. And this is just, when you get a gut instinct, and I saw them the last day, and they're unbelievable. Do not get me wrong, they're unbelievable, and what they're doing is something incredible. Really, they're an incredible bunch, the best club team of all time. But I think the time comes for every team, and I just think that time is coming.
Oh, Jesus Christ. How many of these words are you going to be rammed down your neck?
I have no issue. I have no issue because I have unbelievable admiration for them. Unbelievable. Yeah. I think they're some of the best players of all time and the best club players of all time. Like, I honestly think, someone stated me online, I honestly think Colin Fennelly is one of the best club players of all time. I think he's unstoppable at club level. And like, maybe I am a fool for writing off them given the players that they have. I just think they're struggling this year. I think they're holding on. And listen, maybe they'll hold on and get over the line. And if they do, maybe they'll go through Leinster. I don't see it at the minute.
Yeah, look, I agree with the points you're making, but I still do think they'll get across the line. And like you've said many times about how you feel about St. Thomas has been a great club. And last year, question still, there was a WhatsApp flying around about you questioning them. So all it'll matter is people in Ballyhale say you wrote him off, and that's all. Like you've said, how great they are. You wrote him off is all that's going to go around.
Yeah, I think if I got half attacked by Thomas's player after the county final when they won, when I'd apparently written them off, even though the next word I used was "but," and I changed the set. I went, you know what I mean? But listen, I think the Ballyhale lads would laugh over it, and they nearly wagged the finger at you, saying you probably motivate us if they do get over the line.
All right, so. Who's next in the pecking order then?
Richard Hogan asked a good question. Is it only one from each county?
I think we'll have to, because we're kind of projecting who we think will win.
Okay, I don't like not having O'Loughlin's in the top 10 because I think
they're
fair enough. Well, they did bring us down for an All-Ireland preview show, Shane. Now don't forget that. In fairness, now, but I will say I think they're the most likely Leinster winners if they win Kilkenny. Because traditionally that's what they've done. He beat them in one actually, did he?
We did, yeah. I'll give you the draw here for Leinster as well. So it's Camross against Kildare, Navenna of Wexford are against Offaly, Raharney are against the Dublin champions. We kind of talked about who the 4 teams are in Dublin. So the St. Vincent's against Bowden and Nafina against Lucan. Then you've got Mount Leinster Rangers against the Kilkenny champions. So then what you'll see is the team from number 1, which will be Camross or Naas, where I'm assuming Naas, will be against Raharney or the Dublin winners. And you'll have Navenna or Kilcormac maybe, or Shinrone. I'm just being a little bit, just winding people up there a small bit. They'll be up against the winners of, sorry, who's that? Yeah. So that'll be against the winners of Mount Leinster Rangers or the Kilkenny champions.
I tell you, I wouldn't like to be the Kilkenny winners, and if it's Ballyhale, go and play Mount Leinster Rangers. They got out of jail down in Carlow a couple of years ago. That's a horrible quarterfinal draw.
Yeah, and the draw in Munster, so that will see. Let me just check the draw again. I know that on one side it's the Clare champions against the Tipperary champions, and the winners.
And the winners play. It's Waterford Cork on one side. It's Tip, Clare, and Limerick on the other. Am I right in saying?
Yeah, so it's Ballygunner. They're against the winners of Middleton and SARS. The winners of the Limerick Championship, they'll be against the Waterford or the Cork team, and then Kildangan or Thurles against Clonlara or Crusheen. So I'd say for that reason, we've already said that Ballygunner are going to get through. So that means we're saying that Na Piarsaigh, Patrickswell, Kilmallock or Doon, whoever comes through Limerick, they're out. We're saying. But who of the Limerick teams do you think is going to get furthest?
Will O'Donoghue is still out for Na Piarsaigh and is obviously a big loss. I think he's supposed to be back if they get to a county final. He'll be back in around that time. Will he be back to himself or not? I'm not sure. I have a funny feeling the Well are going to win. The Well are going to win Limerick. But based on, like, Na Piarsaigh gave it to Ballygunner last year for, 45 minutes? That's pretty strong form, you'd have to say. And they obviously have the previous of, they're one of the few teams probably left that have won an All-Ireland recently as well. So I'd have Na Piarsaigh up high. Like, looking up the north as well, the Ulster champions are gone from last year in Dunley. How high do you rate either Lochiel or Cushendall? Where do Schlockneil come into the equation? I don't know if it's one from each county, Shane. I'm not sure. Because I don't like having O'Loughlin's not in the 10. I wouldn't like having Loughrea not in the 10 if Thomas is worrying, if you get me. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. All right, okay. We can have wiggle room. I think we all
let's just disrespect more people and put in a couple of counties and everybody can be cheesed off with us.
Well, the only thing though, Bernie, is like, which teams do we think are going to get farthest? Like, only one of those Limerick teams is going to get through. And more than likely, based on the odds, they're going to get beaten by Ballygunner in the semi-final. So,
yeah, no, if we're picking a Limerick team, you're picking the Piarsaigh, aren't you?
Yeah, I'd be picking them, but they'd probably be down around, even though you could make a very good case for them beating the team that's going to come through, Clare or Tipperary. They're not going to get as far in the championship as one of those two teams if we're going to stick to the idea that Ballygunner make the final.
I'd a side bet with Darragh O'Flynn, who does a lot of research for the show beforehand, and I said, how high up will Thurles be? And his initial reaction was, how high up will you have Thurles? And number 3 was what he said. And I have a feeling you want to have them right there on the podium.
I don't know if I do. I think because the Galway champions are getting through to an All-Ireland semi-final, that very much simplifies matters for whoever's there. I think we have to put them straight up there in probably third.
The Galway champions?
Yeah, I think so.
Who do you think? I think you said that you think Loughrea will win Galway a couple of weeks ago.
No, I was very unsure, but yeah, like they took them to a replay last year and it went all the way down to the very, very end. But I don't know. I think sometimes when you miss your opportunity, the champion team continues to reign. Then I know I'd just about go with St. Thomas's to retain.
Oh, yeah, I know this was my idea beforehand to do this in the show, but I didn't think it would be quite as hard as it actually is.
It's a nightmare every year we do it.
I know this is particularly bad. There's never been as much uncertainty because you don't think Thomas's are as strong because David Burke is missing. You don't think Ballyhale are strong because they're missing 4 or 5 lads, including Darren Mullen as well. The Ulster champions are gone. Yeah, it's very, very difficult. I do want Loughrea in the 10 anyway, and I want O'Loughlin's in the 10 as well.
Yeah, I just don't think we're going to be able to facilitate them because we are projecting who's going to get through. Like, they're still, you know, for you, maybe they're still one of the top 10 teams in the country. But if we're talking about who's going to win the All-Ireland, you can't have your cake and eat it here.
Okay, let's go. Where are Naas coming into the equation here?
Okay, well, let's project how they'll get on in the Leinster Championship. So they've got Cameras first.
If they win at the weekend.
Assuming they win at the weekend. I think that's a nightmare game to call.
That's not a good game for Naas. No, definitely not. But they're bringing a nice bit of experience to the table from last year. The Cameras don't have, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd probably just about edge Naas to win that, assuming they come through the Kildare final.
Then it's the Dublin. It's Dublin Westmeath, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Croke's gone, I'd have Naas probably 5 or 6, I'd say.
Oh, I don't know, because like if Na Fianna get through, like Lucanar's just physically huge team, like, and they don't even have Chris Crummy, and they've been doing really well. Will they beat Na Fianna? I don't know, but just I'm talking about when it gets into the real depths of winter. I think their size will really count for something a little bit more. They're already a very good team on, you know, a harder pitch, but when it gets to that, you know, and then there's Ballyboden and St. Vincent's. Like Vincent's have John Heatherton flying, Pat Gilroy's the manager. You've got the McBrides going very well. Oh, this is a nightmare. But
Do you know what I do when I'm tipping on a race for the paper and there's like 6 or 7 Willie Mullins runners and I can't pick between them? I just veer away from them completely and pick something else. So
Right.
like, just forget about the 4 Dublin teams. Forget just pick something else, because like you couldn't like. Oh, I don't know if I had to put my neck in the block, I'd probably think Bowden might come through in Dublin, but that's not with any real degree of confidence. Like, any of the 4 could have a realistic chance.
Na Fianna are the bookies' favourites, but I probably go with. I'm looking at kind of. Yeah, I think Ballyboden's experience. No, I think Lucan. My head says Lucan are going to win it this year. I could be wrong, but
I'm probably leaning. Well, you obviously have more experience for around that championship than I do, but I'm probably leaning more on Boden's experience, I'd say, and history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and to be fair, they put away Coola quite well.
Shano, we're getting nowhere here.
No, we're not.
Let's start putting our necks on the block here. So we've 1 and 2 sorted. Who's number 3?
Okay, well, this is what I have at the moment.
This is very similar to last year.
Yeah, but like, I think Schlockneil's experience probably will have to give them the edge, won't it? In the conversations we're having.
Yeah. Who do you think? You think Cushendall will win Antrim?
Yeah. And I just think Schlockneil have had the edge in Ulster outside of against Dunloy. So I think we kind of have to nudge towards them.
Yeah, I'd have them up pretty high, I'd have to say. Then where do your beloved Thurles Sarsfields come in?
I would say, you see, I think Thurles will win, and I think they'll then get into the Munster final. So I'd say they'd be close enough to being next in the running. What do you think?
See, I agree with Conor Heaney here. I don't know if it's a power rankings. I think it's just predicting semi-finals. And of the 4 there, of the top 4 there, I think only one will be in. I think potentially only one will be in the All-Ireland semi-finals, and that's Ballygunner.
Okay, well then, like, what way would you want this top 4? If we're going lower.
I probably wanted something like Ballygunner 1. I'd have Loughrea in the 4. I'd probably have them 4 maybe. I'd probably have. Yeah, I would have. Yeah. And I'd probably have Cushendall just outside it in 5, because I think they'll win at the weekend, and I think they'll get to an Ulster final at the least.
We have to factor in the draw and the path to the All-Ireland here. Like, just because we have Schlockneil 4 and St. Thomas's 3, it doesn't mean we think they're the 3rd and 4th best in the country. Like, we are, like, when we do a power rankings for inter-county, we are allowing for the fact that only 3 teams can get out of Munster. So you can't have, although then again, we did have all 5 Munster teams ahead of the Leinster teams at the very end of last
year. Yeah, I know you're saying, like, Na Piarsaigh haven't even won Limerick yet, but I know you're saying that you think they'll be beaten in the Munster semi-final. I still think they deserve to be high up.
Yeah, they do deserve to be high up.
Like 5 or 6, I'd say.
Yeah, but and you know what? It's an interesting thing here. Would Thurles win the Limerick, Shane? I don't think so. Well, I've watched them a lot this year, and I think they're as good as any team in Limerick. And, like, I don't think they're going to be far. Yeah, big time.
Jeez, I disagree with you there now.
Like, I've watched them in most of their games this year, and I'd be very strong on that point.
I think there's about 5 or 6 point gap between the winners in Tip and the winners in Limerick.
Very interesting. Okay, well, look, you seem very strong. And okay, so what's your top 5 then? You like, so obviously you're strong on the Limerick champions there, and you think Patrick Swell are going to win it?
No, I just have a feeling for them, but that's like, I think, like, I don't think the Well will go on a run in Munster though.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And they haven't. The last couple of times they've won it, they probably haven't gone on a run. Whereas Na Piarsaigh have been to All-Ireland semi-finals, they've been to an All-Ireland final, they've won it. They were really competitive against Ballygunner last year. Yeah, I'd be happy enough with that, being honest with you. Yeah, Schlockneil, Thomas's. I think. Oh yes, you're speaking my language now.
Well, like, I'm not entirely agreeing, but I just want to throw it in there. Would you?
Well, I think that's a fair representation of the 10 or the 7 so far, anyway, rather than just going with, as I said. Ballyhale are too, and I don't think they'll win Kilkenny, but they're there and they've so much credit in the bank.
And so, where does the Offaly team come in here?
Richard Hogan, Shane, just let Bernie pick it his way, then you can slate him if it goes wrong.
Yeah,
but sure, listen, the great thing about it is that it could be gone gone so wrong in a couple of weeks. Loughrea number 4 could be out this weekend. So many things could happen for me to be left with egg on my face.
So do you still want O'Loughlin's in there?
I do, because I think at the tail end it'll be fine for me now, being honest with you.
And what about Kilcormac and Shinrone?
Well, if you're basing, Shinrone were hockeyed by Naas last year, Naas have to be higher up that conversation than either the Offaly parents, to be honest with you. No Offaly team has been in a Leinster final since he gave Kilcormac a bit of a trimming in Portlaoise, and the day Conor Matton was sent off. I actually kind of like what I'm looking at here now. Kildangan will feel hard done by because they've been around the final stages in Tipperary the last couple of years, haven't got over the line maybe more than the once in 2020, but they probably fancy their chance of getting. It's funny, if Kildangan win Tipperary, do they get to a Munster final potentially? We've probably slighted Clare teams here as well. But Clare teams don't have a good record in the Munster Championship in the last couple of years.
This is a nightmare. I think we've done this before and it's been a nightmare, but this is a real nightmare. I don't think O'Loughlin Gales should be in there, I'll be honest.
Okay, just give me who you think should be in ahead of them or instead of them.
Yeah, well, I think you could make a case for, let's see, right? You want Ballyboden in there, so that's fair enough straight off the bat. Look, I'm torn. I'm so torn. I'm finding this really, really difficult. Probably.
But sure, listen, Shane, Ballyboden could be out with the weekend. You throw a blanket over the 4 that are left in Dublin. It's probably just the history, maybe, and the fact that, as Joe said, of the 4 that are left, Ballyboden are the only ones that have won it in the last good while. Do you know?
Yeah, I've been bullied according to Harold 6. Go through one of the next high ball. What about Clonlara here?
How? Do you think they'll win Clare?
Could do.
They could do, yeah. But listen, this is by far and away the hardest club power rankings we've ever had to do, and the one with definitely the most variables. Listen, that's why it's kind of good crack to put your head on the block at this stage.
Yeah, it was all talk about how we were putting our head on the block at the start of the show, but I'm very disgusted with it at this stage. Okay, so let's run through that. Ballygunner number 1, we're both happy with that. Shamrocks, Ballyhale, I'm happy to have them number 2, and if they got more lads back, they could be back number 1. The Piercing 3, I think they're a really strong team, and I'm predicting that they'll win Limerick and get to Munster semi-final. There's a reason we don't have a Cork team in here, because we probably think that they'll bow out, in the first round of Munster. Loughrea then, so you're fairly sweet in them to win it, and Thomas is just right beside them. So obviously we have them neck and neck. Schlockneil, we both fancy to come through Ulster, even though, won't be easy, but we fancy that. I think Thurles will get to a Munster final. Again, I could be wrong, but we're trying to put our necks on the block here. Naas, we're both thinking that they'll probably beat Camross. We could be totally wrong, but that's what we're thinking will happen. And they'll have a fair old go against Raharney or the winners of Dublin. You think O'Loughlin Gales will be there? Not gone on that. And let's say Ballyboden won Dublin, then they'd jump up a few more. It's just because they have 2 more games to play, and Naas are such heavy favourites for their Kildare final. It's not that we think Ballyboden are worse than Naas or any of the other Dublin teams. It's just based on where we're at, that probably makes more sense for us.
If I was to do one thing, I would probably push O'Loughlin Gales to 10 and push out Ballyboden and push in Cushendall at 9. What do you think?
I'd be happy to throw O'Loughlin's out altogether. Now, I have to put you at some stage.
I'll give you that one. So,
okay, people, what do you think? Are we at nothing here? Keep your comments coming.
I'd probably switch Cushendall and Ballyboden, but I know I would. I'd actually I've given you getting rid of O'Loughlin Gales. I'd switch the 2 of them around, and then I think we've a good 10. Listen, I think it's good at the moment. This is like Tuesday of Cheltenham at 1:25. Everybody has all the answers. Everybody's an expert. in a couple of weeks we'll probably be showing up. But listen, you like to look into the crystal ball and keep a look ahead and see what might be down the line.
Yeah, look, we've had a pop. We might be totally wrong, but there's our 1 to 10 as things stand on the 9th of October, and no doubt things will change. SSRI says no mention of the Wexford champions even.
Well,
now,
like if you go back to the Raps were hammered by Clock Balacalla in 2021. Nevena were hammered the last time they won it. I think Ballyhale hit them for 6 goals down in Wexford Park. Ferns were beaten last year. Like, the record is not good. You have to go back to Oulart, really. And that was an exceptional Oulart team. So I think that's fair enough. Plus, you're going to Nevena had probably been kicking football for the last while, and probably been doing a bit of training or whatever. But the Wexford teams haven't negotiated the break well at all. And I'm as competitive as Wexford is. Is the quality unbelievably high? I don't know. Yeah. So I think it's fair enough to leave them out.
And that long time waiting in the wings, I don't think is going to stand to them. It's 1998-99 since a team other than Oulart got to Leinster Club final. So I think that's why we've kind of pushed them out. Maybe we didn't really communicate that, but that was probably how we were both feeling. Okay, so that's our top 10. As things stand, we'll revisit it at another stage. The Kildare football semi-finals over the weekend, Selbridge, they beat Athy 216 to 17 points. And that was pretty high scoring. It wasn't in the other one. Naas beat Clane 1-8 to 9. And actually, if Naas are operating on 2 fronts, they have a couple of dual players there that they'll be hoping to mind nicely.
Yeah, Brian Byrne was full back, I think, for the footballers yesterday. Dara Kerwin got the goal. They always kind of had Clane at arm's length, to be honest with you. I think Paddy Brophy and Fergal Conway got the 2 goals for Selbridge, but Naas going for 3 in a row, having not been able to get over the line and even not get to a final for a while. They'd probably fancy an assault on Leinster at this stage, particularly Shane. When you look at, we'll probably might just chat about it now. Like Crokes really got out of jail the other night. Oh my God, they got out of jail, something shocking. And I've been talking in the show about, maybe they're timing their run or whatever. They are hanging on at the minute, hanging on. And no one would have predicted Raheny would do what they did the other night. They were 7-5 up at the break. It took that wonder goal at the end of normal time.
Luke Board, yeah.
Yeah, what a finish. What a finish. But they are hanging on at the minute, just barely hanging on.
Yeah, and Raheny, so it was 2-15 apiece after extra time. Crokes won 5-4 on penalties. Brian Fenton, he had some big moments. This was without Brian Howard as well. Obviously, such a good player at inter-county level, never mind club. Sean McMahon was playing full back. People would know him from being on the Dublin panel as well. He was very good. His driving runs, very, Sean Kelly with Galway-esque, making drives up from the back. And at the end of normal time, so Raheny had gone from chasing the game late on, and every time Crokes are ahead, you just assume that they'll see it out, especially, what they would have learned from that Kilcoo game a couple of years ago. But there was a burst forward, and they Raheny ended up winning a penalty. Dara Lunny converted it. Crokes it ends up going to extra time. And then, before it went to extra time, or was it the end of extra time? It's hard to remember now at this stage. Sean McMahon made a burst forward inside the 21. And I think he was kind of nudged as he tried to fist it over the bar from maybe 14 yards out. Now, he had a man just inside him, maybe 4 yards away, who would have been easily able to pop it over. But it was that was the opportunity to knock out Crokes. And they gave it a right good going. Fair play to Raheny for going as hard as they did. But the penalties, they didn't actually miss a penalty. Just one of them went over the bar. I think it was it Sean Graham, maybe the full forward? I'm not entirely sure. Again, you just watch so many matches, it's hard to remember everyone's name.
How cool was Shane Horn? Oh my God. How cool was he? He was up against Rob Henley, who's obviously an inter-county standard keeper as well. And I don't know, there was something unbelievably classy about the penalty. It was so cool.
Left foot, got close to the field.
Yeah, he did, yeah. Yeah, he did, in fairness, yeah.
Yeah.
As a Raheny man, and we have a Raheny man here, Leonard Tobin, he just says, Raheny man here, be gentle. They didn't actually really miss a penalty or didn't go wide or wasn't saved. They're really, really sick, today, and yesterday as well. It's after that was probably they talk about in athletics, a PB or whatever. That was a career best nearly for Raheny and for a lot of those players. And it's just Crokes were hanging on. And I think they're very susceptible in the final now to Ballyboden, who you'd have to say ran through Judes.
Yeah.
And they're obviously operating on both fronts as well. But that game was really over at half time. It was 1-9 to 5 at the break. There was a real weird lull for 20 or 25 minutes in the second half, like really strange. And then was it Ryan Basquel put away a penalty, and was it Warren Egan got the goal near the end? But like that was comprehensive. They were beaten by double digits in the last two semi-finals, and then they won their semi-final by double digits. They're coming in big form, and obviously have previous. They won it in 19 and won the All-Ireland not too many years before that as well, and looked like they really had the bit between their teeth, and they're a real dangerous side for Crokes to be playing in the final.
Yeah, so that finished 3-13 to 9 points. And wasn't it something like 28 or 29 minutes until they scored their first point in the semi-final last year against Defina? So it was almost like the complete reversal of it there. Robbie Brennan, who's the manager of Crokes, he was talking about penalties being the wrong way to decide games. Now, normally I'm saying, look,
big games, he did say now. Big games, yeah.
Tie calendar, all that kind of stuff. But in Dublin, it's every second week you play. So the final isn't until next week. Now, again, look, I love the penalties, I love the drama, and I'm happy enough to stick with that. But could they have played the replay on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday this week, ensuring that their players still have 10, 11, 12 days? So it was Sean Grenham, tidy hurler too, Shane, says Leonard Tobin. But like, could they have played it this Wednesday night? Or would there be too much of an injury concern after players had played extra time? Because, like, realistically, go to training tomorrow night for Crokes. What's going to be happening? Very little. Recovery session, hit a few balls for anyone who played. So asking them to play a match midweek or next weekend, and
It's funny, the Offaly Senior B final between it was a Clonbelogue and Ballycommon finished level, and it's going to a replay in 2 weeks because they have a bit of time to do it, and it's kind of rare enough actually, to be honest with you now at this stage. But yeah, listen, I think if they could play it Thursday, Friday, maybe, or something like that, maybe, and give them 9 days to the final. But listen, that's not the way it is. Crokes are still standing just about, but like their grip on the Dublin, Leinster, and All Ireland crowns is fairly loose at the minute, you'd have to say. Obviously, with Shane Walsh not starting the other day and having that kind of facial injury, you'd wonder, like, is he going to be able to appear from the start in the final? Probably, if he was able to come on yesterday. But they just don't seem to be playing with the same. It could be like Ballyhale last year, who they just kept getting over the line, then just incrementally got better and better and better as the thing gone on, and then delivered a huge semi-final display against Ballygunner. But I'm not so sure. I just don't think they look as polished as they were last year.
All it takes is one performance though to turn it around, so I wouldn't back against them. Donegal semi-finals were on. Naomh Conaill bet Unans 11 points to 9, so that's their 7th successive final. Fairly unsavoury teams after the match, with both teams colliding. Guido or Guidiver 3-9. Sean McCool's 11 points there. Oisín Gallen did well for McCool's, but Guido, they're back to their first county final in 4 years there. The next championship we'll talk about is Sligo. So the semi-finals there: Drumcliff, Ross's Point, 10 points. Is it St. Molasses Gale? It sounds like molasses almost. St. Malaise Gale? Do you know?
Molasses is what you give like cattle and stuff like that.
So Adrian McGrath is saying about our power rankings, the only thing we learned is that it's too soon for this.
It's some crack if we were proven correct on nearly every count.
Yeah. The other one, Cooler Strand Hill 2-14, St. Mary's 9. And I suppose the huge thing there is we know that Tour de Strand were knocked out on all these different permutations after the group stages. The Cavan semi-finals: Kincourt Stars 1-12, Rammer United 1-8, Crosserlough 14, Gowna 1-18 there. And Gowna are the half parish with who?
Well, in Yakta.
You're straight on the ball there.
Actually kept me.
The Tipperary football semi-finals were on. JK Brackens 1-14, Upper Church Drumban 1-13. So that's the semi-final in football. Next week they play in a relegation final in Tipperary. One team is going down.
Do you think it gives JK Brackens much of an advantage going into the hurling? I was actually thinking about this this morning, and I was like, yes, in one way it does, and they have one up on them, but Brackens have another game to play after the hurling final. Whereas if Upper Church have a lad on one leg, he'll stay on one leg because he knows he won't be playing again till next May. Whereas if Brackens have lads with injury concerns, will they actually be playing in that hurling final for risk of missing the football final, if you get me?
Okay, put it this way. What chance do JK Brackens have against Clonmel Commercials in the final? And what's more important to them?
Oh, I don't know personally what's more important to them. Maybe you do, but it's probably like there's probably an 80% chance of Clonmel winning that final, I'd say, and probably a 20% chance of JK Brackens winning.
I saw the final that they played in a few years ago, and Clonmel won 3-19-7. Now, Clonmel, there's been times this year, for example, the quarterfinal against Ballina when they won so handsomely, but Ballina were down numbers that day. But they didn't exactly crush Moyle Rovers here, so it was 14 points to 8. And I suppose, look, they've just been flying it in recent years, and they look like a team that's got their eyes on bigger prizes. I'd expect they'll beat JK Brackens, and I'd say most people in Brackens will be thinking we'll give them a right good burst, and rightly so. And we try not to be too dismissive of teams when it looks fairly one-sided. I know we did with the Naas winning Kildare Hurling. But
you, not me, you.
Are you saying they won't win the Kildare final?
No, but you had them in the Leinster Championship already, like.
Do you not?
I'll have to do a bit more research on it.
You win the yoke. You're just...
What? I don't have the information available to me right now. I'll have it for Thursday.
Well, like, if you even look at the odds for the Leinster Championship, Naas are 1, 2, 3, 4. They're 5th. So
who's ahead of them out of interest? Ballyhale 1.
Ballyhale 1, Kilcormac 2, O'Loughlin Gales 3, Nafina 4.
Where is Shinrone in that?
Oh, they're well down the list. So they're 40-1. Naas are 9-1.
What price are Kilcormac?
6-1.
And Shinrone are 40-1.
Yeah, so you wouldn't put bad money on that now.
That's absolutely bonkers. That's bonkers, really. I think that's like a 50-50 final. Genuinely, nearly. Yeah. So I think that's mad. Shinrone were outsiders of the 4 going into the Offaly semi-finals, which I couldn't get my head around as well.
Yeah. Okay. So JK Brackens 14, Upperchurch 113, as I said there, 114 to 113. And then in the other semi-final, Clonmel Commercials, they won by 14 points to 11. So that's obviously going to be the final. Then Galway Senior Football Championship, St. James's, they were beaten by Mountbellew Mylock 1-9 to 11 points there.
Shano, just before you go through them here, like literally a score in each of these quarterfinals, Mike Cullen were a point down in injury time against Salthill Knocknacara, managed to kick 2. Like, these games were all on a knife edge. Really tight.
James was ahead of Mountbellew Mylock.
Yeah.
Spells until that goal came. It was a lovely finish. I can't remember the name of the player, but a lovely finish there. Clare Galway 1-11, Milltown 16. Yeah, tight game again.
You didn't see that picture of the Milltown player coming off the pitch with basically no jersey, ripped the whole way down. Someone was saying good seamstress needed.
Yeah.
Need more than a seamstress for that one.
Yeah, so like you said, Mike Cullen, they're the champions, and they had to come from a point down. They didn't panic with Matthew Thompson edging John O'Mahony's side ahead with a goal in the final minute, and then they obviously just came back. Corofin, 9 points, Tuam Stars 11, so no love lost there between those sides, but Tuam go through. In the Roscommon semi-final, St. Bridget's beat Roscommon Gales handsomely enough there, 4-15 to 12. The other one, Boyle beat Porrick Pierce's 1-7 to 9. Leitrim final, Mohill, they beat St. Mary's Kiltokert. That was 2-10 to 14. Eamon O'Hara's over Mohill, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and they were in trouble in this game early. They were down by 4 or 5, I think, in the first half. Got a goal just before the break and made a big burst in the second half. In fairness to Eamon, who's probably still very disappointed that Thurles Strand's 8 in a row bid came a cropper. I'd say he's delighted to have gotten Mohill over the line after him beating in last year's final. And generally, like, he was involved with the Sligo 20s as well. Generally, anywhere he's gone, he's brought success as well. Just to jump back to Galway really quickly, by all accounts, Corofin's two best players against Tuam Stars were Liam Silk and Kieran Malloy, which is very, very promising.
Wrong there with the scoreline wrong way around.
Sorry,
Corofin beat Tuam.
Sorry, Corofin won, yeah. And I think it's Corofin and Milltown in the one semi-final, and it's Mountbellew Mylock against Mike Cullen in the other. So that's like the 2021 champions against 2022. Yeah, and then Corofin were obviously serial winners before that. In Cork, there was plenty of drama in Cork. Didn't see much of this, but just following a small bit online. So St. Finbarrs and Castlehaven, like, it's that gas situation where you have the Cahillans playing against a load of boys that they play hurling with, because they went playing football with Castlehaven when they were younger. But just a bit of the match report here. It finished Castlehaven 116, the Bards 211. Castlehaven should not have had to flood every single individual back to prevent a game-winning Bards goal at the death. Their passage into a first Cork final in 4 seasons absolutely should not have come to that. The West Cork men were miles the superior outfit, but had the Haven scramble defence in full activation mode in the very last play, as Dara Newman's 45 floated goalwards was a scrambled Ethan Toomey goal in the second minute injury time. So they were literally hanging on at the end, having been much the better team. Michael Hurley kicked 7 points. Like, I've always found it peculiar the few times I've seen him play, even at Sigerson level with Carlow IT back in the day. And I think Cork won an under 21 All Ireland. I forget who against, could have been against one of the northern teams in Tullamore a few years ago, and he was man of the match. He's obviously Brian's brother. I thought he would have made more of an impact at senior level, but for whatever reason he hasn't. But he's been brilliant for Castlehaven yesterday. 7 points, 1 mark. Brian Hurley kicked 5 as well, his brother, 1 free and 1 mark, and a point for Jack, or a goal and a point for Jack Callan, who's obviously a fairly accomplished hurler too. And for the Bars, Stephen Sherlock finished with 1-7, goal from a penalty, 3 points, and Ethan Toomey, obviously very, very good hurler as well. He finished with 1-2, and Brian Hayes kicked 2 points as well. So like they had a lot of lads that were double jobbing there as well. And I think they're playing Nemo Rangers in the final, who still have a lot of experienced players, Paul Kerrigan included. They had a good win over Duhallow, finished Nemo Rangers 3-10, Duhallow 1-8.
Yeah, Armagh then the semi-finals, Clonlara 1-9, Clonagale 14 points. That was after extra time. So Clonagale are into their first final since 2006. Madden 14 points, Crossmaglen Rangers 17. So it'll be Cross against Clonagale. Clonagale in the final there. The Derry quarterfinals, Lavey 113, Sean O'Leary Newbridge 18 points, Glen 211, Kilray 9 points, Schlockneil 110, Balahi 18, and Maherafelt 11 points, Ballinascreen 10. Semi-final we'll see Glen against Schlockneil, which is a huge encounter there, and Newbridge against Maherafelt, who won it there. Was it 3 or 4 years ago that they won that game? I remember that famous interview with, was it Danny Heverin after the game as well?
Oh, yeah.
So you've got 3 massive teams there, and obviously Newbridge will be feeling that they can make an impact too. The Wicklow, I should say, semi-finals, Tinnahealy 13 points, Rathnew 2-10, and Arklow, Geraldine's Ballymoney 1-6, Blessington 1-9. So the final is Rathnew against Blessington. And Wexford, the semi-finals, Castletown 1-8, Gussaran O'Rahilly's 10, and Kilnairn 1-12, Shelmaliers 2-12. So we've kind of gone through it all there. There was some amount of stuff on.
Fair bit in it. An awful lot of football last weekend. We have some hurling weekend coming up. As I mentioned, that county final in Burr. You have the Limerick semi-finals on the Sunday. You have the Kilkenny semi-finals on the Sunday, I think, both as well. It's kind of a quietish hurling week, and then you're going to have so much over the next while. Like the next couple of weekends are the busiest club weekends of the year. Realistically, you could have 8 to 9 county finals next weekend, the same the next weekend, and the same the next weekend after. It's funny. I actually thought there, just as you were talking, the goal of the week. I actually gave myself a bit of prep or thought about it, which is unusual. I'm going to go for a one off the beaten track. Sheila Sullivan was absolutely unbelievable for Burr Senior Camogie yesterday. Real stalwart. I think she's the same age as myself. She hurled the whole field wing back yesterday. So she's my goal of the week.
Jerry O'Grady's my goal of the week for the hurling. 41 years of age, back into that county final. Football side of things, that's a tough enough one, actually. Who did you give it for in football?
Oh, the big ball. I'm going to give it to Michael Hurley. 6 points from play as Castlehaven booked their place in the county final.
Yeah, and at the absence of an alternative, yeah, I'm going to go with him as well. Why not?
Good man, great minds think alike.
Yeah. Any other last comments in? Any idea what's on TV this weekend, lads? Not sure.
No, you'll know probably later on this evening. I'm just looking forward to it. I really all the teams we have in the power rankings are going to be really particularly rooting for all of them now over the next couple of weeks.
Oh, stop the lights. Okay, that's it for the show, lads. If you want to get the audio podcast, it's on patreon.com/OurGame. Michael, chat to you later in the week.
Cheers, Shano.